Alright, so today guys I'm going to bring you my Magic Templar build. This has been absolute fucking hell. My computer has not wanted to play the game at all, but I finally got my recording program working and the game working. So today I'm going to show you my Tanky Burst DPS Templar build for 1 Stamriel. Now this build's primarily designed for dueling and PvP, and has some pretty amazing stats. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to blow through this build video super quick, and then at the end I will show you guys some alternatives gear wise and skill wise, and different ways you can run this build depending on what kind of playstyle you like to play. Okay, so we're going to dive into our stats on this build. We have a lot of max resources on this build. We've got nearly 38k max magic. Our recovery is pretty low, but we get by with it. This goes up to about 1200 with channeled focus and potion buff. 40,000 max magic, 20k stamina. We have 3,000, nearly 3,400 buff spell damage and nearly 50% crit. Now this will go up to about 3,600 once everything's golded out and gold enchants and all that kind of stuff. So we are running 2-piece Infernal Guardian. Infernal Guardian is 1-piece max magic, and the 2-piece is when you use a damage shield, you have a 50% chance to lob 3 mortars over 2 seconds at the furthest enemy from you that each deals 6,775 flame damage to all nearby to all enemies within 5 meters of the blast area. This effect can happen every 6 seconds. So this basically you can get to proc every 6 seconds because 50% chance is really high, and we run 2 shields on this build. Our other 5-piece on our body is Clever Alchemist. We're running Infused on our 2 large pieces with Triglyphs, and then we are running, ideally these will be Divines once I get some mats to craft new stuff. So Infused large pieces, Divines small pieces, all enchanted with max magic, and the large pieces with Triglyphs. We're running 5 light and 2 heavy. Ideally I'll be running a medium Infernal shoulder once I get one. Then we're running Trainee. Now this is where we get our large amounts of resources from. Now we are running 2 healthy and 1 arcane. Ideally I'd like these 2 arcane, I just haven't come across any yet. And these bad boys are enchanted with all spell damage, and they're only purple, so as I said, this will go up once I get gold enchants. Then we're running 2 swords on our dual wield bar, and then a sword board on our defensive bar. Now basically Trainee gives max health, max magic, max stamina, and then the 5-piece bonus gives a fuckload of each. It gives 2.5k max health, max magic, and stamina. So basically this set is giving 3.5k resources, magic, health, and stam. So now we've gone through that. Alright, so now we've gone over the gear, let's have a look at our skills. We're running Inner Light and Structured Empathy here just for the increase to our max stats. If you have a look down here, each Mage Guild ability increases your max magic and your magic recovery by 2%. So we're getting 8% max health here and 2% from there, and we're also getting 5% max magic here and the 2%. So we're actually getting 9% max magic increase and an 8% max health increase from these 2 abilities. It is not vital to run these. And you can swap them in and out for other things, which I will go over after. The next ability is a Instacast single target ability, which gives a fair bit of damage up front, but there's a really good dot, and Vampire's Bane's just really strong. Then we have our Execute, Radiant Glory. Now, I prefer this morph over Radiant Destruction because of the heal. Especially in open world Cyrodiil. If you're executing, you're stuck in that channel and you can't do anything. And this just gives you a nice heal while you're trying to execute. And I find the damage isn't that much lower. Next up we have Dark Flare. Now this is our high burst ability. The downside to this ability is it does have a cast time. It does a lot of damage, almost 15,000 magic damage, but also affects the person with major defile, which reduces their healing by 30% for 6 seconds. So it's really strong, and then on top of that, it also empowers your next attack. So, you know, you always want to be using this before an ultimate. Then on our sword and board bar, we're running Extended Ritual, which is a dot heal and a purge. So it's really good against all sorts of builds, because Stam builds will put poison ticks on you, and magic DKs will have a lot of fire dots. So this really helps you a lot. Then we have Blazing Shield. Now between Bone Shield and Blazing Shield, this is where we get a lot of our tankiness from. Bone Shield, when it is morphed, does do damage as well as Blazing Shield. I just haven't leveled it up yet. So these both give us a decent shield. I think they're about 6k, I think, each. So we get about a 12k shield from these two abilities. I could be wrong. It might be more. It might be a little less. But anyway, which explodes. I think I've seen about 9k crits from Blazing Shield. So you get decent damage from it. But the added advantage is it also procs your Infernal Guardian. So, you know, you can get a lot of damage from defense. And that's the best thing about this build, is it does do a lot of damage from defensive abilities. Then next up we have Breath of Life. Now for small scale PvP, this should be the other morph, Honor the Dead. But I PvE heal on this guy, so I need Breath of Life. Next ability is Channeled Focus, and this is our major resolve, major ward, where we get our resistance buffs from, and it is also a huge, massive boost to our magic recovery. Basically, it boosts our magic recovery by 480, which is just crazy. I have Barrier on this bar now. I have this here just strictly for the passive, which is Magic Aid, which increases my magic recovery by 10%. So it's just a nice little increase there to our magic recovery on a back bar. Also on the front bar, we're running Soul Strike as our ultimate. Now this is a really cheap ultimate, and buffed up can hit for about 65k. So that's a massive ultimate. The only problem is it can be blocked, so you do need to wear them down on stamina before you take them out. And as I said about Dark Flare, empowers it. So along with these two here, these both empower. So you got, as long as you're doing one of these before your ultimate, you should be fine. Because 20% damage increase on 65,000 is massive. So that's pretty much the skills we use. Next up I'll show you my CP. Alright guys, so we got CP here. I'm running 74 into Magician, 77 into Arcanist, and 36 in Tumbling. So we're running a decent stam pool, really good stam pool, and this reduced cost just adds to it and makes us really sustainable as far as stamina goes. We got 10 points into Bless just for that 5% increased healing. 27 into Elfbane. We do run about 50% crit, so that does work. Then we're running 81 into Elemental Expert, 69 into Thermitage. Then we're running 27 into Hardy, Elemental Defender, and Fixed Skin. So with these ones, it's kind of up to you. Also something to keep in mind with any shield build you run. So if you're running a Sorcerer shield build or Templar, whatever it may be, if your main defense is shields, then of course you want a lot into Bastion, but something else to consider is the fact that all these do not buff your shield. So these do not matter. If you have a shield up 95% of the time, CP into these are not going to do anything, because they do not decrease the damage of don't decrease the damage done to your shields at all. So, you know, it may be better to stack into quick recovery and maybe some other things. So that's the CP. Few other things real quickly. We're running the Mage Munderstone and we're running Tri-Stat Food. And also for this build we are an Ogonian. I love Ogonians. I think they are just really strong and underrated, because who doesn't want a 50% swimming speed increase? Also, the recovery they get from this passive is just stupid strong. People don't realize how strong it is. So basically it increases max magic by 3%, and whenever you drink a potion you restore 12% of your max health, magic and stamina. So, you know, when we're running really high pools like this, we're getting a lot of resources back. And that, like, if you're running a tripod, you're getting like I think it's about 15, I can't exactly remember off the top of my head, but you're getting a lot of extra resources back. And also you're getting a 5% increase to healing done and healing received. So when you're healing yourself, you're getting a 10% increase there. Also, you have a increased max health by 9% and poison disease resistance by 1500. Which is really handy because those stam builds love their poisons at the moment. So that's the basic build, guys. That's the basic idea of what I'm running, what skills I'm using, and the CP and all that stuff. So now I'm going to go into a bit more detail and explain a few variations and other gear sets that you can run in this build to make it viable. So I will get into that. Okay guys, so once again my recording program has shut itself, so I'm using another program, and for some reason I cannot get the webcam to work. So anyway, now we've gone over the basics of the build, I want to go into more detail and give you guys some more options and some different ways you can go running this build to suit your playstyle. So if you're more of a, actually firstly we'll go into using a staff on this build. It is possible without losing too much. Basically you got to swap in a trainee body piece and run an alchemist sword instead of a trainee sword. Basically this is going to give you your 5 trainee on both bars and your 5 trainee and 5 alchemist on your dual world bar. So basically you just got to remember to proc your alchemist on your dual world bar, or you're not going to get that massive amount of spell damage. Yes, kitty, I know. my cat is severely wanting my attention. So that's one way of running a staff. Well, the only way, well, pretty much the way you run a staff on this build. So if you're more offensive and you like to have more damage and that kind of stuff, a really good option for this build is Soul Shrine. Now this adds 434, I believe it's 450 at gold, to your cast time and channeled abilities. It also adds max magic, spell critical, and spell damage. So this is going to give you a really big damage boost over the setup we're running, but you're going to lose a lot of those max stat resources. But this basically buffs your Jesus Beam, your Jabs, your Soul Assault, and also your Dark Flare, and I believe it does buff other abilities that you do use on this build. So that's one way of going offensive. I do recommend, if you go that way, to run Vulcan Scoria instead of the Inferno Guardian. The other way is, if you're more of a defensive player, the main way to go with this build is just swap to 5 heavy instead of 5 light. And that way you can be tanky but keep your damage and keep your sustain. So the other sets that you can run monster wise is basically the two main sets is Vulcan Scoria and the Inferno Guardian. You can run combinations of 1 and 1, so you could run max magic and like a recovery one, or you could run max magic and spell damage helm like Mola Kenna, or you could just run 2 max magic. There's a fair few combinations there depending on what you want to do. You could also run Swarm Mother, and if you're 1vxing, possibly Malabeth might be good. That's just all up to you. So there's an option if you're more tanky, an option if you like more damage. Another way you kind of could go is you could run Julianos instead of Clever Alchemist if you wanted more sustained damage. So that's basically some options gear-wise for you. So ability-wise, you've seen what we're using on the build and other things that do work and it is really effective. Defensive stance on our sword and board bar is really good for fighting sorcerers and things like that. If you time this with a crystal frag that they're casting at you, it can be really effective. And also it increases the amount you can block by 8% and decreases the cost of block by 8%. So it is really good ability. The other morph of this to absorb magic is really good with this high health that we have. So both morphs are really good. It just depends what you prefer. The absorb magic's probably a bit more defensive, and defensive stance is probably more offensive with the reflect. Other abilities you can run on this build is Jabs, Punching Sweeps. It's just an average ability, I guess, is the best way to describe it. It's not good, it's not bad. The other way, other ability you could run is Raw Javelin. This is a good knockback CC. It's really handy for getting stam builds out of your face, and that kind of stuff. Other abilities you can run, Luminous Shards is good. It's a CC. It's decent damage. It's probably better in like a 1vx situation other than Dauling, just because of its AoE. Now, Purifying Light can also be a decent ability if you use it right to your playstyle. It's basically just a decent DPS additive and a half decent dot heal as well. So that's something else to consider, along with Total Dark. Now, this is a really strong ability against magic or any ranged DPS. Basically, it is a reflect. It reflects any harmful projectiles that is cast at you, and it also violently explodes for nearly 4,000 magic damage. So this can be really good. Obviously, it's not going to be any good to you against like melee stam builds, but other than that, it's good. So pretty much that's some options as far as ability goes. Repentance is always good if you're in an open world 1vx situation. Something else you could run is proxy debt. Probably more along the lines of a 1vx situation, and if you are running the max stat setup with the 20k stamina pool, you could probably run caltrops if you wanted to. The other thing I haven't really mentioned yet is if you did want to be, you could be a vampire with this build. It possibly might even be a better way to go. I just got rid of my vamp because I was fighting too many magic DKs and just taking too much damage from them. But you got to remember that under 50% health, you're taking a third less damage. So when you're running 40k health, that's 20k. So under 20k, you're taking a third less damage. To be honest, I probably will go back to being a vampire for this build. And the other option is you could run Purge on this build as well for that extra 10% recovery, and you could drop Ritual if you wanted to. So there's some options, guys. I really hope this has been a help. It's been an absolute pain in the ass to fucking get this filmed. Everything has just gone wrong, and it's taken me about 6 hours to make a fucking 20-minute video. So I really hope that you guys like this and it's helped you. If you do have any other questions that I haven't covered, or if I forgot to cover something, just leave a comment and I will answer it. And please subscribe to the channel, guys. I'm going to be bringing a lot more videos out, and basically stop being a slack, lazy prick. So yeah, that's about it, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you later.